Recently I played the game Mage Knight and I loved it, and that left me wanting more fantasy story-driven, character-driven games. And because of this I remembered about Barbarian Prince, a game that I had read about, a solo game from some 20 years ago, and also remember that the game had recently been redesigned. Not mechanically the game is the same, but it has been redesigned cosmetically. Now that the game looks better than it used to. Also the game had been given a lot of new player rates, thanks to the love of the fans. And so I decided, well, why not? Why don't I print my my copy, I put it together and I play the game. Also because the game is now available for print and play, you can find both the old version and the new version online. The new version can be found at the page of the game on Board Game Geek, so you can make your own copy and play it for free, which is precisely what I did. Elements, components of the game, you have here a chart to keep track of the stats of your hero. Your hero has three main stats: combat skill, which of course you use in combat; endurance, which is your life points. If you go down to 0, you lose the game. Also, if you start losing too much endurance, that affects combat. And you have wits and wiles, which is how smart you are, how able you are to finagle a way out of drama and out of trouble. You also have a player aid here to keep track of the stats of people that are coming with you. Sometimes they may be mercenaries that you need to pay every day. They may be allies that are following you for free just because they believe in your cause. People that love you, slaves that you freed. There are a lot of situations and reasons why people may be in your party. The map where the adventure takes place, and another player aid that you use in combat to keep track of the stats of your enemies that will change during combat. Well, hopefully, because that means that you're hitting your opponents. Also, as you can see, I'm using Eurocubes that I place on all of these elements here to keep track of things, and the Eurocubes come from Urban Sprawl, and so does that little cone there that I use to indicate the position of my character on the board. The story is that of this Barbarian Prince, that guy there, that has lost his throne because of usurpers that have taken control of the Northern Kingdom, that is on the north of this map here. So now he's in exile and he's traveling around this map, trying to raise an army to fight against usurpers. In order to do so, he needs to put together 500 pieces of gold, but he only has 70 days to do so. Otherwise, the usurpers will receive help from their allies, and at that point they'll be so strong that it will be impossible for our Barbarian Prince to go back home and regain his kingdom. So you have 70 days, that pretty much means 70 turns to complete your mission. Again, you can win if you put together 500 pieces of gold, but there are also other situations that may make you win the game, and I'm not going to tell you what those are. Let it to you to discover those in the event book and in the rulebook. There are ways when you're navigating through the paragraphs in which maybe you will convince some powerful figure to lend you an army, or maybe through some supernatural means you'll be able to regain control of your lost kingdom. Again, I'm not going to tell you any of these. If you don't find them, then the only way for you to win the game is to put together 500 pieces of gold. The game comes with a rule book that you do not need to read extensively before you start playing the game. You just need to read the first couple of pages, because the rulebook contains a lot of tables that you will need throughout the game, and that cover very specific situations. So you do not need to know about those things until you're instructed to roll on those tables by the events book, which is a thicker book, and as you can imagine, well, it tells you about all the things that may happen to you. It includes other tables, and throughout the game you will be flipping back and forth actually between these two books. You need both. It's not like you read this one and then you only work on this one. And again, especially because the rulebook has many tables that you need, the most important section of the rulebook is probably this one here with the series of events that you can have in a day. Well, actually, with the series of actions that you can perform during one of your turns. You may rest in the current hex to heal wounds. Also, you may hunt to look for food, because at the end of each day, that is, of each turn, you need to eat a unit of food. There's a section on the map to keep track of how much food you have. If people are traveling with you, you also need to feed them. If you're in a town, you also need to spend money to buy them a room, an inn. So traveling with people is a burden, but of course it is good to have a strong party when you're facing danger. And also in other situations, you need sort of like a magician, a wizard, or a priest as a consultant. But again, I'm not getting there. I will let you to discover what all this means if you play the game. I don't want to give you too many spoilers. A very common action is to travel to a new hex. When you do so, well, unless you're traveling on a road, you need to roll on a table to see if you're actually able to leave the X, because you may get lost. You roll on the table indicating the terrain that you're trying to enter. There are different tables for different terrains: countryside, farmland, but you also have swamps, mountains, forests, different places. So you roll here, and basically if you roll, for example, 9 or more when you're trying to leave the countryside, you're lost in the area and you waste that day. You cannot choose another action. If you're not lost, then you roll on the travel table of the terrain that you are entering to see if you have an event there. And of course, there are all sorts of events. You may, let's say, encounter a mercenary band, find a farm, encounter orcs, wolves, the gateway to darkness, abandoned mines, great hunting cat, goblin keep, monks, wizards, halflings. And this is just one of the possible places that you may explore. Encounters, usually you have the choice to talk to the person, or to attack the person, or to evade the person or group of people. In other cases, that may not be possible if the entity that you encounter is hostile, or just a wild, hungry bear, or a wild boar charging you. So talking is not always going to be an option. Sometimes it will be a quick talk. Sometimes you roll on different tables to because of a more elaborate conversation that will need to take place. Sometimes you bribe the people that you encounter. Sometimes they'll join your party. Sometimes they will attack you. Again, a lot of different possible actions. And of course, depending on the hex in which you are, you may have different types of action available. You may be in a town, castle, or temple and decide to seek news and information. And sometimes you find interesting things. Sometimes you waste your time. You may find the opportunities to buy stuff. You may get yourself in trouble. You may get yourself robbed. You may seek to hire followers in a town or castle. You may seek an audience with the local lord. That may be a generic mayor of a town, or a unique personality that is the lord of a castle. Different castles will have different lords, so you will have different procedures to seek an audience with them, and then if you're granted the audience, to conduct the audience. You may be at a temple and you submit offerings, or you may be in ruins and search the ruins, which are sort of like the dungeons of this game, because anything may happen there. A lot of magic involved in the ruins, so actually it is usually a good idea to go there with a wizard or a priest that can act as sort of like interpreters, help you with the runes and with the items. Otherwise you do not know how to decipher. You will discover that yes, different places are better if visited with a certain type of expert. What else? Oh yeah, combat. Combat is very simple. It is resolved in a series of rounds. You roll against the opponent rolls against you. Depending on the situation, you may be the attacker or the defender. The dice are rolled modified by the differential in combat skill between the attacker and the defender. There may be further modifiers based on whether or not the target character or the attacker have wounds, and then that will simply tell you if the attack was a miss, if it was a hit, and how much damage was inflicted. You record the evolving, or the progressively reduced health of the characters until you evade, and then you have to roll because you do not know exactly where you're going to end when you evade, or until you die, or until you kill the opponents, and maybe you'll be able to gain their wealth if they have any. This is the genre of the game, and to tell you more in detail would be very hard, because this is really an engine to tell you a story. Sometimes you'll find yourself, I don't know, in a halfling town, gossiping with the cute halflings, and actually discovering the dark secret of a lord on the other side of the map, and then you travel to that lord, or try to get there to blackmail that person into helping you. You may visit a temple and one of the priestesses falls in love with you, runs away with you, joins your party, brings a lot of money that steals from the temple. But as you can imagine, you shouldn't be seen around the temple anytime soon, because you're not welcome. You may find yourself assaulted by ghosts that are guarding an ancient altar, or a spectre will suck you into a different astral plane and you die there. You just lose the game immediately. You may be the victim of heavy rains. You may find a knight at the bridge that challenges you. You may visit and explore abandoned mines, or all sorts of things. I could just keep listing them over and over again. And you should really play the game in this spirit, which is to see the story that the game will tell you, which can be incredibly different, and it can last very different amounts of time. You may have a game that is over in 10 minutes because you are surrounded and killed by a mob of farmers that caught you hunting in their land, or you may play for 2 hours and have this epic adventure that really is a sort of like a short novel, and then may end in tragedy. Because yes, this is something you should be ready for. The game is extremely hard to win. If you are a sore loser, don't get anywhere close to this game, you're gonna be mad. In a recent podcast, I said that this game is impossible to beat. Well, I have to say, it is almost impossible. I didn't beat it, but I saw how it can be beaten. I saw in some tables results that I did not roll, but had I rolled them, I would have been able to beat the game, or if I found myself in situations that if I had certain companions or certain items, well, then I wouldn't be able to win the game. But it's still very hard. It is still an incredibly hard game. Do not play to win it, play to see what happens and enjoy the story, and then if you win, that is a bonus, but if you win, just let me know and share your experience. As an engine to tell stories, this game is really fun. It really works well. It has, I think, a perfect balance between the open-ended nature of a world where you can travel in different directions and events may be encountered in different sequences, and on the other hand, the paragraph-based structure. Paragraph-based, of course, always has the potential for being repetitive and feel stale quite soon. Not here, again, just because of the way in which you can travel on the map and put yourself in the situation of encountering certain types of events game after game, and basically you decide the type of events that you are more likely to encounter depending on where you're traveling, and that will make, of course, your working through the paragraphs different from game to game. This is a game that I've had a lot of fun with. I played it, well, my good share of times. I never won it yet. I was very close once, and yes, it may be frustrating when you play for over 2 hours and then you still lose the game, but as an engine to tell stories, this is a very effective one that if you're looking for the sort of like story-driven, character-driven experience, this is one that is a good one to play. I don't think it will be a waste of time. You just need to print it and start playing it. Also, it is free, so that can be a round thing. Barbarian Prince, old-fashioned, paragraph-based, choose-your-own-adventure type of game, but fun.